what would somebody who doesn't think spiritually, what would they say? Are they going to look at like brain chemistry and what's going on there?
Yeah.
And then are there patterns that you can observe that say, hey, a narcissist brain looks like this and it fires this way, and then the common person, they look like that. Is there scientific evidence to show that?
There's yes, they have a certain level of gray matter in their brain that is different from someone who does not have.
What does that mean?
Narcissistic personality. So it's lack of empathy, lack of emotional, like their parasympathetic system, like their ability to empathize with someone. Like if you're hearing a story or like you're hearing that something sad happened. And I'm not talking about being overly empathetic, but they literally just don't have a reaction. They don't feel bad. They have a hardened heart. That's what it is. They just don't care because it doesn't concern them. So the narcissist's motto is, you're here for my pleasure, and what are you going to do for me?
Yeah.
Whereas, we're told as believers to love one another and to submit to one another. And so like they just don't understand that. Now, from a clinical perspective, if I was treating someone who is like, I want nothing Christian, I want, and so I talk to them more about identifying the signs of narcissistic abuse, because here's a narcissist a true narcissist is always going to look for someone with low self-esteem. They're not, unless you were raised in that home. I'm talking about a relationship that you have by choice. They're always going to look for someone with low self-esteem, because I'll give you an example. So if someone comes up to you, right, let's say you have healthy self-esteem, someone comes up to you and over compliments you, over flatters you, I mean, your discernment needs to kick in and be like,
what are you trying to do here?
Yeah, like what's your goal here? The issue, clinically speaking, the issue with someone who has low self-esteem is they're so hungry for that flattering and those compliments that they take those compliments in and they internalize them.
Yeah.
So when they take those compliments in, what happens is there's a chemical in our brain, in our body, that rushes in. It's called dopamine. That's where the word dope came from. It literally causes a chemical reaction in their body that says, I feel great about myself now. So here's the caveat. After a couple of times of that person love bombing, that's what we call it, love bombing, even if it's like a coworker relationship, after a couple of times, that person becomes addicted to the other person.
So they're like a drug.
It is. Yeah, they are a drug. Absolutely. So now my self-esteem, if I was the victim, my self-esteem is rising and falling with that person's compliments or criticism. So when I don't do what they want me to do, then they withdraw their compliments. And so I go into a dopamine deficit in my body, clinically speaking.
Yeah.
I go into a dopamine deficit, which means I start to feel bad about myself. And the crash is even worse, because now I got used to having this level of, I feel great about myself.
That is so wild.
I mean, it literally, that's why and I'm glad we're talking about this, because a lot of people have no grace for someone who's been through narcissistic abuse. They're like, well, just leave the person and just move on. And I'm like, it's not that easy.
No, their body is literally like it's like a car. Like if a car isn't able to push the fuel through the engine, it's not going to go anywhere. Or if the transmission fluid's messed up. So it's like there's a flow of these neurochemicals that's supposed to be happening in your body. And your body's like actually been programmed to not function properly. And so now it's like, no wonder you're not able to get out of bed. No wonder you kind of sabotage any relationship you start, right?
Yeah.
Am I getting
absolutely.
that right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what happens. I love the car, like the car visual, because that is true. They literally feel like they cannot function when that narcissistic person withdraws because they're not getting what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will withdraw, and that person they go into a dopamine deficit. They feel like, so now they're having self-deprecating thoughts. They're talking bad about themselves. Wow. They are experiencing anxiety, panic attacks, because they have literally started what's the word? depending on that person for their emotional
They
survival.
kind of are like having withdrawal symptoms.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And dopamine is one of the most addictive chemicals there is, and it works.
So, okay. I'm just genuinely curious. Can I pepper you with more questions about this?
Yeah,
okay, so does oxytocin play into this at all?
It does. So oxytocin is the love hormone. So dopamine is the
Like the
motivation. It makes you feel motivated. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why they lack motivation. Once it goes down, they don't want to get out of bed. It's like their motivation goes down.
Okay.
So oxytocin, yes. If the person was very complimentary and the person was a narcissistic person is always going to look for someone who has gone through trauma themselves and has not had it. They have not processed through it. So they'll make that person feel heard for a while. And so now that person's body is getting filled with oxytocin, the love hormone.
Yeah.
And then when they withdraw, I'm glad you brought that up because, it's dopamine. Dopamine is the main one. Oxytocin gets dropped. Their hormones are everywhere.
Because I'm just trying to understand these things more and more because my wife and I have been more and more curious about it. If you enjoyed that clip and you want to watch another video like it, you can just click right over here. Or if you want to see my other channel, Directed Life, full-length interviews and really deep conversations, you can click over here.